I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. Did a couple of info. Okay. I am excited. Houston Texans are on the verge of making, some dangerous noise. I'm very excited for what's going on, man. A lot of you guys are barely what's going on, Tyler. A lot of big stuff has happened for the Houston Texans the past couple hours. We're gonna discuss in a little bit. Just wait for a couple of you guys to filter in here. Y'all have to be excited. I am myself. I'm excited. I was just jumping up and down thinking about the possibilities of Dalton Schultz and Devin Singletary being a Houston Texan. What's going on, people? What's going on? How are you guys feeling? How you guys feeling? No. Shout out. Appreciate it. Guys, the Houston Texans are making some moves. Y'all have to be excited for I am too. It was like, let me see. We could just go ahead and start, everyone. Well, boys, you already heard the news. The Houston Texans have went out there and they have signed Dalton Schultz and Devin Singletary, both on 1-year deals. I am excited for that. Welcome to episode 3 of Believe in the Houston Texans. I am your host, Ruben Calavillo. Hope you guys are having a very fun Monday. This was big news for the Houston Texans, right? We were saying for a minute now how this wasn't a very sexy free agency, right? You didn't go out there and, go after the big names. Well, now you did, but the Houston Texans weren't really doing anything besides trading for Robert Woods. Shout out to my boy Pat. Pat, if you want to come on here, just hit me up in the DMs. I would love someone here. Um, I lost my train of thought. No, so like I said, yeah, so moves that we were like, I understand them, but when you go out there and you sign, one of the best tight ends on the free agent market, and then you get Devin Singletary, who, when we heard that he was talking to the Houston Texans per Aaron Wilson, well, you were absolutely excited. The potential 1-2 punch of Damian Pierce and Devin Singletary is going to be absolutely insane. I've already seen Damian Pierce run behind a not so good offensive line. And now you're running behind, you just traded for Shaq Mason. That was probably at first one of my favorite moves up for agency so far that Nick Casario did. And we times are good, guys. How do y'all guys feel? Yes, we did get in center today, but I do think the Houston Texans will end up drafting them. 27 people in the live here, guys. Man, just now the question is, what are the expectations for the Houston Texans? But also, one thing that I like is they invested into this rookie quarterback. Let's look what they did. They go out there and trade for Robert Woods, right? The veteran presence that left because you traded away that quitter, Brandon Cooks. Well, now you got that with Robert Woods. I already talked about Shaq Mason, who was a top 10 guard, only allowed 1 sack. Apparently, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but they are already talking about, extending him. That would be a great, addition for years to come on this Houston Texans offensive line. Dalton Schultz, man, last season, I have his stats here. Give me a second before I pull it up. Welcome, everyone coming in. 577 yards, 5 touchdowns. Give me that. He's already one of the best pass catching weapons on this Houston Texans roster just by signing his name. We do need a draft in the center. Um, Maybe draft one very high right now, but the Houston Texans are just continuing to invest into this offense. And also, someone asked, when does Bryce Young do his combine? I think on the 23rd or 24th. But all these moves just show that the Houston Texans are trying to get better. Now, Dalton Schultz, that 1 year, $9 million contract, that just freaking excites me, man. Could he gotten more? Apparently, he turned down a $36 million deal from the Dallas Cowboys. So anytime you could screw Dallas, you already get some praise in my book, Dalton Schultz. How is everyone feeling, boys? You think we might get D Hop? I don't think so. I've heard some rumblings about him going to Dallas. Mechie will be healthy for camp. He absolutely would. We haven't even talked about John Mechie, in his year coming back from cancer. This Houston Texans offense is on the rise, ladies and gentlemen. I did not think they were going to invest this much into it, but I'm glad that they did. And whoever the QB is, whether it's Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, if you want to throw his name in there, well, they should like what the Houston Texans are doing. We've seen multiple QBs on this Houston Texans team. I'm not going to name them, but behind very crappy offensive lines. Now it looks like the Houston Texans are going to do their best to build them, and it's just exciting right now. It's kind of like Nick Casario telling us to shut up. We really, let me work. I know you guys want to see me give out 3-year deals, but maybe I don't value that right now, right? The only 3-year deal he gave out was to Lerman Tunsil, who absolutely deserved that back. I think Lerman Tunsil was one of the best left tackles in the NFL, and I think that was just the start of this whole free agency fiasco, right? Just Nick Casario saying, look what I'm going to do next. And it just gets you very excited. Bryce or CJ, y'all already know I'm team Bryce Young. But then imagine what Anthony Richardson could do with a Dalton Schultz and all these weapons that we are going to add and continue to add. Tyler said it best himself. I wasn't expecting a mega splash this free agency, but I F what these signings. No, absolutely. And I think these are these are two of the biggest so far. You expect Dalton Schultz and Devin Singletary to make immediate impacts on this Houston Texans offense. Devin Singletary just is coming off an 800-yard season. You were getting great value players, you know, young guys. I think Dalton Schultz is 26. Devin Singletary, I think, is also still in his late 20s. So it's the end of the Rex Burkheads, the Dare Bungawales. The Houston Texans are going to be bringing talent. And this is just the D'Amico Ryans effect, man, because I knew that, you can't just run him back with just mediocre talent like what they did last year. You have to make it make sense for these fans. And so far, this has all been making sense. And it just screams that they are in that win now mode, right? It was kind of, the Houston Texans were kind of in limbo when you go from David Culley and Lovie Smith. You know that it's going to be bad. But with D'Amico Ryans, it feels like the rebuild was just shot ahead 3 years. And like I said, this wasn't the sexy free agency we were expecting, but one that is becoming one of my favorites. The Houston Texans are adding talent, and I'm guessing they're done. Who are good centers in this draft? John Michael Smith, Luke Whippler from Ohio State, the other guy from Wisconsin, Joe something with the T. I am blanking on his name. We need a good wide receiver in this draft for sure. And there's quite a bit of good ones. I do like JSN, Jackson Smith and Jibba from Ohio State, Jordan Anderson from USC. I've been talking about him since the very beginning. This only makes me more excited for the draft, right? Because you're not really putting the pressure on a Bryce Young. Can you imagine if the Houston Texans did this for Davis Mills? Let me just say that. Nonetheless, you are giving these rookies every, weapon available to them. You invest into the offensive line, you invest into the wide receivers, you just invested into the tight end group and the running back group. This is exactly how free agency was supposed to play out for the Houston Texans, and I had to give them an A+. Before it was, a C+ low B because there wasn't any excitement. Well, the excitement came today. 2 back-to-back signings in the Houston Texans. Like I said, they also signed a center. And I just don't know what other moves the Houston Texans are going to make. But if you're asking me right now, the Houston Texans definitely got better, and it just should send a message to the league that we are going to try to win this year. Let me see. Richard said it best. Texans not playing this season right now. We are coming back to claim the AFC South again. I think the Colin Cowherd show had us winning 10 games. Kathy asked for Jimmy G. Jimmy G is going to he already signed with the Raiders. Let me see. I hope we get Quentin Johnson at 12. I don't like Quentin Johnson. Dude only lines up on the left side of the field. Even I think Steve Smith said it. Yeah, it was Steve Smith. He was just like, he doesn't see any type of play in Quentin Johnson or any type of anything special. Let me ask you guys a question. How do you think the Houston Texans approach this draft? Because I still think you might see offense in the top three picks: quarterback, running back, I'm sorry, quarterback, wide receiver, and maybe center. You can't convince me on the edge, right? If Tyree Wilson falls to 12, or some people are falling in love with Lucas Van Ness, then you could go ahead and do that. But I think the Houston Texans might still go out there and prioritize, the offense. And why wouldn't you not? You want to give your rookie quarterback the best possible chance and the best chance to be successful. Give me 1 second, boys. I'm just wondering what else the Houston Texans are going to do. You have me checking my Twitter every single 5 seconds. And that is just the excitement that, that we didn't have in the past two off seasons. It was, just moves where you were like, this is not exciting, but you kind of see a vision of where the Houston Texans want to go. You see them loading up on the offense. On the defensive side, right? Of course, you would want to see, some big names and big money spent there. But I think that Sheldon Rankins was a fantastic signing for this defensive line, graded very highly the past 2 years with the New York Jets. Last year, I think it was a 73. And you get your leader on the defensive line. The other leader. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Mm. You get a leader. You get a leader on the defensive line. The other leader, I'm sorry, was Jerry Hughes. I was blanking on his name. Old man Jerry Hughes was very productive, but you need a running back, guys. And I think the Houston Texans just did a great job. Quarterback, edge, and wide receiver. That's exactly where I could also see them going. I'm trying to get some people in here. Give me some second, guys, while I do with that. Jalen Carter at 12. If he's there, I would absolutely go there. Someone asked me, the Outlaw did, who are you most excited about? Now, I like Dalton Schultz, but to me, Devin Singletary. The 1-2 punch of him and Damian Pierce is going to absolutely be insane. Would you also look at, what Devin Singletary could do? 38 catches he's had in at least the past 3 years. The Houston Texans need a pass catching running back, and he added 200 yards through the air with one touchdown. And you could really have both of them on the field sometimes if you want to. And there's going to be no gas letting up whenever Damian Pierce comes out, right? Because whenever Rex Burkhead and Derek Bungawale and company were there, this running game was non-existent. And then when Damian Pierce went out, everything just went to hell. It was not good for this Houston Texans offense. And when you go out there and you run out an offense, right? Let's look at the potential offense for the Houston Texans. Your starting wide receivers would be Robert Woods, Nico Collins, and John Menchie. Maybe if you want to throw Noah Brown in there because you signed him. Your tight ends will be Dalton Schultz and second year guy Tegan Quit Toriano. Your offensive line from left to right will go Laramie Tunsil, Kenyon Green, who I think Kenyon Green is going to have a very good year too. You're going to have to draft a center no matter where it is. I myself like Luke Whippler from Ohio State. Your right guard, who you just traded for Shaq Mason, and then Titus Howard to wrap it up, who I think they are trying to extend. This offensive line looks already miles ahead of what it was last year. And then the running back group. You could see this being a legit 1-2 punch, and one that is going to make a lot of defenses scary. We still had close games after Pierce fell. No, absolutely. This is why I like the addition of all these weapons, because with better coaching, right, you could argue that the Houston Texans maybe win 3 more games last year. You could have won 2 out of the 4 games with better quarterback play, right? If Davis Mills doesn't blunder a couple of the plays in the first 4 weeks, maybe the Houston Texans are a different team. Nonetheless, with better coaching and better players, I think the Houston Texans might be on the verge. Like I said, the Colin Cowherd show just said earlier or yesterday that they predict the Houston Texans winning 10 games. That would absolutely be insane. I just hope NRG Stadium is packed and jumping our first home game. H-Town stand up. No, absolutely. These moves should excite the fans, and it's been excitement ever since DeMeco Ryans got hired, right? I told y'all this was going to be the DeMeco Ryans effect. When you lose that game when you win that game against the Indianapolis Colts and you lose the number 1 overall pick, it seems like everything was going to fall down for the Houston Texans. Tell me if I'm lying. It looked like the Houston Texans outplayed themselves in the Bryce Young sweepstakes. You let Brandon Cooks absolutely ball out. when you know that you were going to trade him in the offseason after this dude was liking pictures of him in different uniforms and was so upset that you didn't trade him. He decided not to play against the Philadelphia Eagles. And then he got that C on his, on his chest ripped away. Brandon Cooks was the reason the Houston Texans won that game, was the best player on the field. He knocked you out of the number one overall pick. I'm so glad he is a Dallas Cowboy. However, I did hear that he could have got traded at the deadline for potentially a third round pick. Not sure what happened there. Nonetheless, goodbye, Brandon Cooks. That just got me so mad because we invested into, these veterans. Justin Britt was another one that pissed me off. Wasn't there in training camp, and in one game, right? In one game, he shows us that he should never play football ever again. Kamir Grugier Hill, a guy who you extended in the offseason, asked for his release. And then you signed D'Amico Ryans. And then you hear him say, I want people, I want this organization, I want players who want to swarm. Right? The additions that I think are going to be huge. One of them is Jimmy Ward, right? Everyone knew Jimmy Ward was coming to the Houston Texans. He was liking pictures of him in uniforms. He even liked one of my tweets saying Jimmy Ward is going to be a Houston Texans. He brings that energy, that nasty defensive 49er attitude here to Houston, man. That is going to excite, and just be contagious, right? I think the crowd is going to feel off that. And I think, this city has been waiting for those exciting moments. I was at 3 of the 4 tailgates this year, at home games, and you could tell the Houston Texans fans just wanted to party a little bit more. They wanted something to talk about, and I think now you do. When you go out there and get D'Amico, and then you get Jimmy Ward, and then you bring other players, and I mentioned them already, Dalton Schultz, Devin Singletary, those are win now moves. Richard asks, any news on Davis Mills? I don't know, but they gave his number to Robert Woods. Apparently, there is someone saying that they are trying to trade him. I'm not sure how much value that Davis Mills had, but Davis Mills had his chance. And, we could have been here saying, look who who the Houston Texans just gave Davis Mills, Dalton Schultz, and Devin Singletary. But nonetheless, I'm excited for the new era. What was crazy is they didn't even mention Davis Mills' name. They still don't. The first person to do it was Bobby Slowick. Shout out to Davis Mills, man. My boy, don't know, he texted him a link for a moving company. It was absolutely funny. The only game where we got blown out was the second Jags game. Send them to the NFL. 58 people in the stream right now. Everyone is all good vibes. Did y'all expect Nick Caserio to go out there and make some moves? Because I absolutely did it. He said that we signed the center from the Miami Dolphins. Yes, however, he is a journeyman. Well, not a journeyman, but hasn't really been healthy since 2019. I still think the Houston Texans will be starting a rookie center in week 1. Someone asked me again, are you CJ Stroud or Bryce Young? Bryce Young is going to be a Houston Texans. I think the Panthers fell in love with CJ Stroud, and I think they're trying to make the Houston Texans trade up. I don't think they will. I think Nick Caserio is going to just wait and see what they're going to do. He has knocked it out the park so far. Richard also said it best himself. Wait, see. Nope. No, Nick has been going off this offseason. Absolutely. Mr. Johnson said Davis Mills was a failed third-round pick. We should get an early first-round pick from him or someone on a practice squad. Someone said, you're saying you're not feeling the dude from the Dolphins. I'm not saying I'm not feeling him. It's just the dude hasn't played a full season since 2019. What's going on with Denzel Perryman? Apparently the Houston Texans were meeting with them. A very good linebacker, right? A lot of injury history, but that's okay because you expect that to happen, and you don't expect them to start 17 games for you. I would like Denzel Perryman here in the Houston Texans. That would be another great signing. Does Nick Caserio do that after these two? I don't think so. I think we might go ahead and draft a linebacker. We talked to some already at the combine, and we haven't even talked about the draft, ladies and gentlemen. We've been so already caught up with free agency and the great job that Nick Caserio has done because no one definitely expected this. Now, Dre Day said, I definitely expected Nick to cook. Super excited for this draft. Well, still, Nick Casario didn't go out there and get the big names. Now, Dalton Schultz, don't get me wrong, was one of the best tight ends on the free agent market. Then, other than that, none of these names like really stick out and say the Houston Texans went out there and and signed one of the best players at this position, and that's okay with me. You brought potentially four, now six starters. Robert Woods, a starter. Shaq Mason, a starter. Dalton Schultz, a starter. Devin Singletary, yes, he is behind Damian Pierce, but he could start for another team. That this offense just got much better today. Who do you think will be the most surprising, impactful player? I think it will be Devin Singletary. I think a backup running back is going to do so much wonders for this Houston Texans team, and it's just going to show that we should have did this shit last year. When are you going to do a live NFL draft prediction? Maybe next stream, right? Also, the Houston Texans announced that they will be doing their live draft party at Herman Park on next month on the 27th. I will be there. I was there last year where we took Derek Stingley and then traded back for and took Kenyon Green. That was an absolute fun time itself. I will be there again. Make sure you guys RSB for your tickets. And if you see me out there, feel free to shout out. Someone gave Nick Casario an A. I think you could give him an A now. I think before these two signings, it was at a standalone B because there wasn't no excitement, right? But when you go out there and get Dalton Schultz and then you go out there and get Devin Singletary and you make it known that you are trying to have a very successful offense and a dangerous offense, look at the weapons already. Devin Singletary, Dalton Schultz, Nico Collins, Robert Woods, John Mincy, miles ahead of what this offensive group was last year. And it's just exciting to see. First home game is going to be crazy. No, absolutely. And then also Nick Cray, who had the boombox over there in San Fran. I wonder what is the first song he is going to play coming out the tunnel. Man, the vibes are just absolutely crazy. I'm excited for it, man. Even in the press conference for D'Amico Ryans, you didn't see that for Lovie Smith. You didn't see that for David Culley. They had posters of him all over, the stadium had, his big old welcome home coach along that big ass billboard. This is exactly how I saw the Houston Texans free agency going. Do you think we're going to get a wide receiver in free agency? He keeps on asking for DJ Chark. No, I think the Houston Texans will be going out there and drafting one. I talked about JSN, Jordan Addison. A lot of guys want the Houston Texans to bring Tank Dell home, that Houston product. Guys, this was a solid couple of days for the Houston Texans. This offense definitely got better. I don't think Robert Woods is still good. No, I just think he's a good addition in the locker room. I could definitely see him being the number 2 or number 3 leading receiver this year. He only had 527 yards last year with the Tennessee Titans. However, played a full 17 games after tearing his ACL. When he was with the Rams, he was pretty good. He was outperforming Brandon Cooks. So I wonder what Robert Woods could be here. Let me see how this is going. 65 people in the stream. Times are getting excited, guys. Let me see what's going on. How many games do you think the Houston Texans can potentially win? You think Nico Collins will go out this season, maybe with a better quarterback, but how many games or what are your expectations for this Houston Texans team now with these two signings? I think they're trying to be, competitive. Two questions back to back about Nico Collins. This has to be the year he emerges. Last year this year you could blame Davis Mills. The injury didn't help him also, but this is a big year 3 for Nico Collins. You're not one of the coaching staff's draft picks. You weren't even, the last coaching staff's draft picks. However, Nico Collins definitely has a chance to prove himself. Sad we lost Cooks. Cooks could absolutely go. I don't want to quit it on this team. Someone said we have one more year till we make a deep playoff run. No, absolutely. And you think about the amount of draft capital money-wise, the Houston Texans are going to have next year. Over $120+ million towards the cap. And the Houston Texans are going to spend some money. You know that. Maybe the big names, the long-term deals is coming next year where the Houston Texans, could throw out money to whoever they absolutely want to. Nonetheless, guys, I wanted to talk about free agency for quite a little bit with you boys. 61 people in this chat. Throw up the W, guys. I am gonna sign off. We are H-Town till we drown over here. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing. As always, go Texans. You guys have a very blessed day.